Welcome to Heaven Awaits. My name is Leigh, and I narrate the near-death experiences of those who have died and have seen the other side. These videos are meant to bring hope to a sometimes hopeless world. If you enjoy these videos, please consider hitting the thumbs up, subscribe, and bell icons to be notified of new content. Doing so is free, and it does help the channel grow. Get comfortable, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and let's dive into today's experience. Something strange happened at the harbor on one summer day in 1961. The harbor was one of the most exciting and forbidden places a 7-year-old boy could imagine. It was here that I had my first experience of the existence of a spiritual world that is so fundamentally different from what words can express. Only one person understood me, Peter, or German Peter, as he was called, because his mother was German. The Germans were hated by many because of Nazism, which had been defeated only 9 years before my birth. Peter was my best friend. He was 10 years old, while I was only 7 years old. The 3-year difference didn't matter in the eyes of my mother and some other adults. We understood each other the way only two real boyhood friends do, without the big words. When we were together, the world became magical. Anything was possible in Peter's world, and he seemed completely unaffected by the fact that he was considered a bit of a retard. My mother couldn't stand him. He's an island servant, and he tells lies. It shines out of him, and I don't like the sneaky way he behaves. He can't be trusted, she said. Peter had failed 2nd grade and had to repeat the class, but he rarely came to school because his mother had bad nerves and she couldn't control him. He simply did what he wanted to do, and no one dared contradict him because he was strong as an ox. His 2 older brothers were feared throughout our small community. They had been just as unruly as Peter, so they had been sent sailing. Peter wanted to go sailing too when he was old enough. There was no limit to the adventures he could recount when one of the brothers had been home and told him about amazing experiences out in the big wide world. Peter and I shared many secrets, and before we became teenagers, we made a secret pact with each other that we still maintain to this day. The pact meant that when we grew up, we were obligated to always remember what the world looks like to a child and not become as stupid and ignorant as the adults who have all forgotten what it means to be a child. I took everything Peter said at face value. He became my hero that day at the harbor, when a whole new world opened up to me. Had my mom and dad known what we found on that lovely sunny summer day, I think their hearts would have skipped several beats. But they didn't know. They never knew, and they never found out. With his creative ingenuity, Peter had chosen the harbor pier as the most natural and exciting playground on this particularly hot summer day. A raft was tied to the quay between 2 fishing boats. 2 ropes were lashed to the rocks under the bulwark. With an elegant jump, Peter jumped onto the raft from the bulwark. I jumped after him, and the raft began to move out into the harbor basin. When the ropes were stretched out, the raft stopped and then began to move towards the quay again. When the raft was back at the quay, we jumped back on land. We took turns jumping onto the raft to see who dared to jump while the raft was furthest from the quay. When the raft was furthest out, it was my turn to jump. I took a long run towards the bulwark, set off and jumped, but the jump was too short and I landed half a meter from the raft. It was as if everything was happening in slow motion. I slipped into the water without a sound with my eyes open. Slowly, I sank into the depths in a vertical position, noticing the silence around me. I couldn't swim, but for some reason, I felt completely relaxed by the situation. When I reached the bottom of the harbor, I sank to my knees and headed for the surface, but slammed my head against the bottom of the raft. What happened next would affect my entire life, and it would take me several years before I could confide in another person about the incident. Everything went black, and time seemed to stand still. It was not like a dream. Rather, I perceived it as a wide-awake, authentic experience. I was aware that I was in the water and in the harbor, under the raft. I wasn't breathing, but I wasn't holding my breath either. I knew I might die now, but it didn't worry me. It was the safest state I had ever experienced. To my right behind me, a luminous creature appeared. It took me a long time to realize that I could see this being, although it was outside my field of vision. The creature spoke to me in the most pleasant, male voice, and he called me by my nickname, Kuka. His presence put me at ease, and for some reason, I knew he was my angel of light, although I had never heard of an angel of light before. A huge roll of film appeared in front of me, and the angel of light showed me my entire life in detail until the moment I jumped into the water. To review my entire life in the space of a few minutes is an impossibility, but nevertheless, that's what happened. Several times along the way, the movie stopped, and the angel of light went through many incidents with me from my short life. Each time it was about situations where I had done something that made me feel guilty, because I knew what I had done was wrong. I had lied several times. It was explained to me what my telling lies had led to and why it had been wrong. Finally, the angel of light explained to me that there was a purpose to my life, and that there were certain things I had to go through to follow the plan that was with me in my life. As he talked, I started to recognize him, but I couldn't put my finger on how I knew him or who he was. When the movie got to the point where I jumped into the harbor, the show stopped. I asked if I could please watch some more, because I could see from the reel that there was much more of the movie left. He smiled at me in the most pleasant way and said, "Now you're coming back into the world, and you're going to be someone who heals the sick, and you're also going to do something else that has to do with music. Those two things are what you're going to do in your life." I begged him to let me stay where he was, but he refused in the most loving way. Then my eyes went black, and what happened next was that I opened my eyes and looked into the eyes of a man who was bent over me. Breathing hard, I turned on my side and vomited out some sea foam. My face and hair were covered in slime and seawater. I asked for Peter, and the man told me that a boy had reached under the raft and grabbed my hair and tried to pull me up to the surface by my hair. The man had helped pull me all the way up onto the raft. I had been lifeless for so long that he had thought I was dead, but here I was, smiling at him. He couldn't understand that at all. I was in a state of indescribable happiness because the angel of light had shown me that there is no death. Suddenly I realized the gravity of the situation. Imagine if my mom and dad found out that I had almost drowned, that I had been playing down by the harbor, and that I had been with the one person I wasn't allowed to play with, Peter. I jumped up and ran away as fast as I could. Peter appeared as I ran down the path with tarred fishing nets, and he joined me silently. He had run and hidden because he was afraid I might be dead, and I didn't want that to be associated with him. He had seen how I had been given artificial respiration, and he was really relieved and happy when he saw that I woke up with a start on the raft. We headed home, but stopped where I hung all my clothes to dry on a fence. Peter kept bragging about his heroics, about how he had pulled me up by my hair after he found me under the raft. He had turned his back when I jumped from the bulwark, and he hadn't even heard the splash when I went into the water. Suddenly, I'd just been gone, so he thought I'd hidden or gone somewhere else. He had looked for me for a bit, but then jumped onto the raft and stuck his head in the water, and there I was under the raft. All I could think about was my encounter with the angel of light, and I was almost in a trance. I couldn't tell Peter what I had experienced. The fact that I could have been dead didn't bother me in the least, because now I knew that death was no longer something I needed to be afraid of. Luckily, it was sunny, so within an hour, my clothes were almost dry. What was I going to tell back home? Where had I been? Who had I been with? We walked towards home where we both lived. Well before we got there, we parted ways and agreed that today's incident would stay between the two of us, and so it was. When I got home, the world was turned upside down. My mom and dad were freaking out because I hadn't come home at the agreed time to eat dinner like I was supposed to. They had called my friend's parents, but no one had seen me. Finally, they called the police, who were now on their way to look into the matter. They quickly called the police again so that the whole thing could be called off. I was alternately kissed and scolded while the questions rained down on me. Where had I been? Who had I been with? How could I have thought to just stay away? I had never done that before, and how could my clothes be so damp? And where was my cowboy belt with the gun I had gotten for my birthday? Only then did I realize that I had lost my cowboy belt. It must have fallen to the bottom of the harbor. I made up the vilest lie against the admonitions of the angel of light. I said that I had been alone on the beach and that I had probably lost my cowboy belt out there somewhere. I hadn't dared come home without the cowboy belt, so I had trotted up and down the beach to find it. Now my mom was really angry that I had lost my cowboy belt, and that night I had to trudge through the whole beach with her to find it. Of course, we didn't find the cowboy belt because it was at the bottom of the harbor. Rarely have I felt so guilty for lying, because the angel of light's words kept repeating in my head. It was as if he was still with me. I had a feeling that he was watching everything that happened. That does it for today's experience. As always, let me know what you thought in the comment section below. Until next time, stay safe and continue to be blessed.